Good morning, Mike and Arlen, our Philippine journey. Thanks so much for dropping by. You're a liar. You're full of shit. You are an absolute dumbass. You know what? That's a perspective, isn't it? But it's not one person calling the other person that. What happens and how do you explain when somebody's physically there, physically sees something, and yet does not agree at all with others? Then they say, no, you people, that's not what happened. I was there. I saw it. You're full of shit. You're a liar. Let's talk about that for just a minute.
Why'd you have to go? I guess this world's too slow for you. I think there's beauty in the gray, the cold, but you just want the gold. And there's no way I can beat it, cause I got no chance when it comes to her. She got the glitter and the fame, and I just wasn't enough.
Okay. First off, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate it. If you appreciate the effort, the satire, the humor, whatever it is we throw out there, even the information, the best way you can support this channel and our efforts is to subscribe and hit that thumbs up. It would truly be appreciated. Secondly, this is not particularly pointed out at one or two individuals. But when I use the example, I'm going to use a person's, I guess it is pointed at a direction. All right. What happens when perspective is different? What happens when people that are involved see things differently than what others see? And here's my example. Here's what I mean by this. All right. Recently, I watched a video I happened across. Actually, I was in Andy Omar's live stream the other day, and people were talking about the usual trolling. And at the same time, they said, oh, Mark Thornton's doing a live. And he's talking about Ground Zero. So I went to that. And I went and watched it before it got changed up. And Mark Thornton said, look, you know what? I'm going to address this because it needs to be addressed. His perspective, even though he was involved, even though he was there, and even though it's about him, his perspective of the events is much different than the video that was shot. Now, I'm not saying he's a liar. I am not saying that. And maybe he is. But perhaps his perspective of the events as they transpired and afterwards are altered by his own experience. And here's what I mean. You know, Mark makes this out, oh, you know what? We were on the other side, completely across the room from XYZ. Well, on the other side, completely across the room, this place ain't that big. All right. I could have literally wadded up tissue and thrown it from table to table. It was that close to each other. Number two, he talks about how they came and approached him. But clearly in the video, it was just one guy that came over. Now, as to the fight itself and what transpired, it's pretty much moot. All right. And we don't condone it in any way, shape, or means. There's just no need for that. But what I'm saying is that perhaps, I'm only saying perhaps because there's a lot of controversy involved in this. People there are big supporters of Mark's, and there are big people that don't support Mark. But suppose Mark was just having a bad day. Suppose in his mind, what he sees is exactly what he is saying. He sees it that way. That's the way he sees it. And therefore, it's not really a lie. That's just the way he interprets what happened, even though the physical, visible evidence is different. Okay? And his interpretation of that is different. That's what I'm getting at, is how we interpret how people say things and how people see things. For instance, we've been accused of things in the past, all right? Nothing outrageous. We've been accused of saying something, and word for word, maybe what we said was exactly correct, but its intent was not towards a certain individual. Yet they got all butthurt about it, thinking it was about them, but it wasn't. What happens when people see things differently? Well, then drama starts. And you know what? The best way to deal with that is just avoid it, get away from it, ignore it. All right? People like that won't come to you and say, hey, do you have a problem with this? If they won't say that, then it just means that they're smaller than you are and they're petty. There are instances where there are mistakes that get made. People say things and other people interpret those things differently. And then there are instances where people are just outright liars. They're just full of shit. Okay? That happens. It's obvious, it's there, and that's the way it is. But with all of that said, don't you believe that some people, what they see in their mind could be completely different from what you see, from what the facts are? As far as you're concerned, I see it. I was there. I see this. I know. Yet, is your opinion jaded? Were you having a bad day? Maybe you haven't had whatever. I mean, maybe you're hungover, whatever. What I'm getting at is simply sometimes they're not outright liars. They just totally believe in what they see. Another instance of something like this. Recently, there was a gentleman who's the boyfriend of a blogger, a woman, Filipina blogger. He sees her in a totally different light than many others. Okay? And there are varying degrees of how people feel about it. Some people say, how can you not see this? Don't you see how she is? Don't you understand? But is that reality? I mean, I guess it is reality. You see it. You see the content this girl puts out, or woman, puts out. You see all of this. But perspective is key here. Sure, you can say, it's not perspective, Mike. It's really not. It is this. Look, it is A, B, C, D. Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't at all. But he may not see it that way. He may disagree. And until everybody has their say, until everybody gets out there, you don't even have the option of understanding how he sees it. Now, even once you understand how he sees it, you may still see it totally different. You really may. My only point with all of this is that in the issue that Andy has, or that Andy showed with Mark Thornton, that video of the episode at Ground Zero is, in my mind, clearly clearly showing exactly the events. Mark Thornton's description of it is not what I see, but in his mind, is it what he sees? That's the way it seems. I don't know. Tell me what you think about it. All right? Not necessarily the issue with Mark Thornton. That's not what this is really about. But more so the issue of perception. More so the issue of how two people can look at the same thing and see something different, even though it's clearly the same thing. It's complex, I think, really. But you know what? I'd like to know what you think. Thanks so much. Have a great day.